G'day. We're going to have a look into this Acer Aspire Vero. It's a business laptop that focuses a message about sustainability and going green. Now this is the 2023 model. Now I have reviewed last year's model. If you haven't checked that review out on the 2022 model, I'll put a link in the description below so you can actually check that review out after this video. Now both of the models look very similar. The look and touch and feel of it, I'll actually refer you to that video on the touch of it. Don't be fooled by the actual look of it. Even though they look very similar, there are some differences between the 2023 and 2022 model. And we're going to go through some of the differences, or what I would say improvements to it. And as always, I will be putting timestamps along this video, so you skip to a different section, you may be interested to save you time. Let's have a look at the ports. Starting on the left hand side, we've got the AC barrel style port. This is interesting as the actual Acer Vero comes packaged with a 65-watt power adapter, which is a USB-C. So it actually comes with that. So if you've got an old spare barrel style port, it's able to still take that in. So that's great, more good for businesses that have a lot of these AC power ports. Now we've got two Thunderbolt 4 ports, which are USB Type-C. Now that's an improvement, as last year was only one. Now it's got two, as we've got more USB Type-C devices. And we've got the full-size HDMI 2.1. We've got also a USB Type-A port. Now this is 3.2 Gen 2, so that's been upgraded there. And then looking on the other side here, we have got Kensington lock slot, and then we've got another USB Type-A port. Now this is also 3.2 Gen 2. Previous year, that was version 2 only. So that's a big upgrade there. And then we've got the headphone jack. The display is a 15.6-inch Full HD IPS display. It has an aspect ratio of 16:9, and has actually increased its brightness from previous year from 250 nits to 400 nits. So I definitely did not have any issues working on this display while I am outdoors for either working on documents or consuming multimedia. Measuring the color gamut coverage of the Full HD display, it resulted with 97% sRGB coverage, 68.8% Adobe RGB coverage, and 70% DCI-P3 coverage. This is a big improvement in the color gamut coverage from last year's model. As I did mention, it was pretty average, and I like to see that improve. And it's good to hear that Acer have actually listened and given this year's model a lot better color gamut coverage. Now, I wouldn't say that it is at a professional photo or video editing level, but at least for amateurs, we have a little quite decent color gamut coverage and heading towards the correct direction. Maybe a goal for next year model is actually just to try and help with the color profile. Now, I find the actual color profile from factory from this Acer Vero is that it's quite tinge in color. What I mean by tinge is quite green in color, even though I do know this Vero model is going green, but overall the display is a bit green. It has this funky greenish tinge to it. Now, until you actually get a hardware colorimeter to actually fix up the actual color profile, it's been just nice to see that Acer have actually put a little bit more color accuracy in the actual color tinge for the default color profile coming from factory. Here is another one of those subtle changes of the 2023 model, and that's this hinge area at the back here. Now this is now more of a darker gray in color, and it has a new message here that says for the planet Earth. That's just nice encouragement. And also these rubber bits have now changed from yellow to this sort of lime color green, and also on the feet as well. Now those used to be yellow, again it's gone now to this lime color green. Now as for the hinge wise, it is still pretty much one finger support all the way to what I would say about 140 degrees. Still is the same as previous model. The Vero in 2023 has two options here in Australia for colors. We can either get the cobstone gray, which is what this one is, or we can get the darker volcanic gray. Now in US and other regions, you actually have three different options for colors. You can either get the cypress green or the marine blue, or again this cobstone gray. Keyboard and trackpad hasn't really changed from last year's model. Now it still has that very silky glass smooth trackpad with the fingerprint reader in the top left, and it also is mechanical, so you can still depress it, and it is absolutely very reactive. With the keyboard, it still is a full-size keyboard with the number pad on the right, and it still has those two highlighted keys, which are the R and E, which are actually backwards. It's just to actually help remind the user about, the slogan for this Vero: reduce, reuse, and recycle. So the RE part, revolution, that's what we say. But definitely, it's just nice to see. It's a very nice, well-built keyboard, and I don't really have that much complaints, especially for business use. The keyboard is backlit, and there are 3 settings for it: off, low, and high. This is a recording from the 1440p webcam from the Vero. This is the video and audio unedited. You can hear and see what the quality of the webcam is like. Now, from last year's model, this was an improvement I wish that Acer would did, which was they had a 720p webcam, and I advised it would be nice to have a 1080p. And you know what? This year they actually upped it and actually gave us up 1440p. Good on you, Acer, for listening and actually going beyond that, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, as always for this test, I've got 2 touch lights currently turned on. I've got my 1 street light turned on, and also the down lights is the room turned off for ambience. I'm going to turn off my 1 street light off. Now, this is now just very quick. Now, the 2 downlights in front of me is a bit far away, and there's not much light here on my face. This is what I consider a dark environment. So if you're in an office environment, you should have much more light than what I'm currently at. And I'm going to turn my 1 street light back on, and see there's just, again, it's adjusted very quickly. Absolutely fantastic. I think the actual sharpness and the brightness is actually really nice on this 1440p camera. So definitely great to hear that Acer have actually put a really good camera in this Vero. As for the speakers, it's pretty much like last year's speakers. It's just the position of the speakers is more forward rather on the side. And as for the volume of the speakers, it measured in very similar at 82.6 decibels like last year. And as for the sound quality, it's pretty much, again, very decent sounding business speakers. They actually have very strong mids and highs, got good reverb and good clarity, and it tries to attempts at the bass, but it's not like a really punchy bass, but it's at least attempts at it. And again, it is decent sounding speakers for a business laptop. Another area that's been improved from the previous model is the battery life. Now, I managed to get 9 hours and 25 minutes for modern office battery life tests in PC Mark 10, 2 hours and 17 minutes for gaming, and 8 hours and 40 minutes for video playback in the Procom battery life test. So this is probably, I would say, another 20% better battery life. Now, I think this is more due to the processor change to the 13th gen, as those efficiency cores do help out. As for temperatures and fan noise, when I took my measurement, the ambient temperature in the room was 24 degrees Celsius. Now, just to give you a reference point, your average fan is anywhere between 33 to 35 degrees Celsius. Now, I took my base measure when the computer was idle, and the hottest air around the keyboard measured a maximum of 35 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan noise, stayed at 35 decibels. So dead silent, and the average internal core temperature was 39 degrees Celsius. Then I put 20% load on the computer. That's pretty much average use. That's tasks like office productivity work, surfing the web, streaming video, and the hottest air around the keyboard measured a maximum of 37 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan noise, it did spin up a little bit to a maximum of 40 decibels, and the average internal core temperature was 46 degrees Celsius. Then I put 50% load on the computer, and the hottest area around the keyboard, which now has changed to where the palm rest is, and I suspect this is where the storage is, which is actually heating up due to the workload, and it measured in a maximum of 45 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan noise, it did spin up even more, and it measured in a maximum of 43 decibels. And the average internal core temperature was 52 degrees Celsius. Then I put 100% load in best performance mode, and the hottest air around the keyboard measured a maximum of 49 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan noise, it spun a little bit more, and it measured in a maximum of 45 decibels, and the average internal core temperature was 76 degrees Celsius. I also measured the bottom back cover while I had 100% load, and the hottest air around the back cover measured a maximum of 56 degrees Celsius. I wouldn't advise putting the Vero on your lap while it has some sort of load on the system resources, as it does heat up a bit on the bottom side. I really actually don't advise any laptop to be put on your lap while it's got some sort of load, as I really do have a fair bit of heat on the bottom side. So it's not just normal for Vero. Here's the results of the benchmarks performed on the Aspire Vero. This is Pass Mark, City Bench, PC Mark, 3D Mark, Crystal Disk Mark, Cross Mark, Geek Bench, Procon Office, Fusion Photoshop, Fusion Lightroom, Fusion Premiere Pro, Blender, Vermark, UG Engine, and Spec View Pref. And some gaming benchmark like Far Cry 6, Cyberpunk 2077, and F1 2022. Let's have a look in internals, but before we actually look in internals, I want to make a special mention of a little feature here at the back end of the Vero is a little hole here. Now this is to actually reset the battery. So if you actually got ghost charging, one by ghost charging that's thinking it's charging but it actually has nothing plugged into it, or you're having some battery issues or just diagnosing power issues, this is a good thing to hold down for probably about, I would say 20 seconds with a paper clip, and you can just hold that in and then that will reset the battery rather than have to actually open this up. That is a nice little feature that Acer put in, which is actually good to see. Now we'll have a look at the internals, and we've got the internals. Now this is a little different from last year's model. So we've got the 55 watt hour battery at the bottom here, and again the connector is right in the middle. Now again, you don't really need to actually disconnect the battery to actually work on power issues, as that little power button does help you out for resetting there. But if you're working internally, which is very rare that you'll see it working internally, this is the battery connector here. Now right hand side of it is the primary M.2 NVMe. Now this is a 2280 format and it is heat shield wrapped, which is good to see that Acer has done that. And on above here, now this is the biggest change here. Now this is the memory. It is soldered to the system board. Previously it was around here as a SolDIMM slot, so you can actually upgrade later on. Now this year model, you cannot upgrade it later on, so you need to make sure you get the right configuration, as you can't upgrade it after you purchase it. Now left hand side is the Wi-Fi or Bluetooth card here, and then that's pretty much all there really is. And above here is the actual processor. Now actually I can see the heatsink has gone this way. The previous model was actually going round and then this way here. So again, there's a little bit of changes, but the big major change is the actual memory or the RAM. It's now soldered to the system board. Previously you can upgrade. It'd be nice actually to upgrade from last year. That would be fantastic to see that come back. Last year, I described the Aspire Vero being a well-cooked, decent meal. None of the actual components or features was outstanding or eye-popping or spectacular, but every component did its job absolutely fantastic and just was good. And when it's gelled together as a package, you just can't complain about it because it's just a good system. And it's also still keeping the message about sustainability. So that's fantastic about sacrificing that. And I've got to give a big tops to Acer for actually listening to the feedback from last year. I asked for a better webcam from the 720p webcam, and they went beyond and gave us a 1440p high def webcam. Absolutely fantastic. Add some AI into there, and also the display, which was one of the biggest worries I had about it, and they have really improved on the display on the 2023 model. And a few more upgrade changes like speeds and also some ports upgrades. It's absolutely fantastic. So here I'll have to say, with the Aspire Vero in 2023, this is a better, well-cooked, decent meal. So I hope you find this video informative or enjoy it. If you did, even support my channel, smash that like button for me. And if you can share this video, it does help me out. And as always, imperfections in life makes it beautiful and interesting. And I'll see you next video.